Welcome back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? This is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and I just wanted to send out a big thank you. We've gone well over 100 subscribers, finally, and now we really need to get to 1,000. So please hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And welcome to another episode. All right. In this episode, we're going to talk more about the gaslighting and the lying that's going on. I mean, you know, everybody's all up in arms about CRT, critical race theory. And now you have, just like the Democrats are playing dumb with the, I think it's actually Republicans who are trying to defund police, which we all know is BS. They're also saying now, we're not really teaching critical race theory, and you just don't want us to teach about slavery or racism in schools. And that's not the case either. I mean, It's very frustrating because, as you're going to see, I'm going to show you some clips. They're straight lying to the American people, and I really feel bad for these people who can't think for themselves because Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon are telling them these things, and they're just slurping it up, and it's disgusting. All right? Let me tell you. Don't let them tell you that it's no big deal. They're just teaching about slavery, all right? Because we've learned about slavery. We know about the slave triangle trade. We know about the Indians and the fights that we had with them. And let me make one thing super clear. Until the 1700s, before America ever was a nation, the whole world, for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, was a brutal place of countries, empires, tribes, whatever you want to call it, killing each other and taking over land and slaves and raping women. And the world was brutal. America did not invent brutality. Brutality is tens of thousands of years old, and America is 245 years old. Slavery didn't start with America, it ended with America, and I'm going to prove it. But first, this is what teachers are saying, the candid ones. I mean, some teachers are smart enough to play it off and be cool, and like, as long as there's not a camera in their classroom, they'll be able to put on a public persona before brainwashing your kids. But some teachers are not that bright, and they'll tell you exactly what they're doing. And here's a perfect example of them explaining how they're going to brainwash your children. Play tape.
I Creates has been an amazing opportunity for our school to have time dedicated to come together to talk about how do we create anti-racist schools.
I see teaching as a very political act. When we are engaging with our students, whether it's on social justice issues or multicultural issues or culturally relevant teaching, I see that as foundational to all.
Do you hear what she's saying? Now, we just started, and I'm not even like halfway through the clip. First of all, she's teaching kindergartners politics, teaching them about social justice. Anybody who's educated at all, like a real education, not some liberal arts crap, knows that anytime you put a word before the word justice, it ceases to be justice. There is no racial justice, social, it's justice. Justice. The word is justice. And justice is blind. That's why Lady Justice, hanging outside the courthouse with her scales of justice, is wearing a blindfold. Because it doesn't matter what social status you are. It doesn't matter what race you are. Justice is blind. It's what you get, what you deserve, which also is the antithesis of equity. And she's saying it's foundational to teach first graders about politics. I'm sorry, I'll try not to interrupt. Please, play tape.
All learning.
We're learning a lot about different issues in this world and like what's happening around. Like we're mostly thinking about like racial and culture in my class and how we could change the future.
She's talking about racism, culturalism, and changing the social construct of the country. That's a 6-year-old. We're losing the battle, guys. We're going to lose our country. And I'm going to show you the clips, how they're talking about how, the conservatives are talking about how we're going to lose our country if we allow this. This is a 6-year-old being taught about protesting and social justice, and these things aren't even truth. It's not knowledge. They're teaching them political ideology. None of these kids can add or multiply anymore, but their teachers are sitting there endlessly, day in and day out, talking about these progressive social causes. Don't tell me that this is about conservatives don't want slavery. This is what we don't want. Let me see if I can get through to the end of the tape. I'm going to try my best.
We have all of these different people that are activists. We have gay people, we have transgender people, and we have people that are taking action. And we're learning how to take action in social studies now.
We've seen our students become empowered. We've seen them see that even at the age of 4, that they can take an active role and be activists. And so it's through this work that we realize that education without this conversation isn't going to make a difference for us.
That's a 7-year-old little girl talking about activism and transgender and gays and this and that and the other thing. Learning this in primary school and elementary school. Number one, I think that's gross. All right? Maybe you're a parent who doesn't, but that's your prerogative. If I'm a father, which I am, but if I had a second grader at this moment going to public school, why don't I have the right to not teach my kid about gays and transgenders because I haven't even taught them about the birds and the bees yet? Why are second graders learning about this stuff and activism and protesting for gays and transgenders? That's ridiculous. And parents, you don't have a choice. Unless you can afford to send your child to private school, which isn't even a guarantee that they won't be taught this crap. What is to protect a parent's right to not teach their kids about sex when they're 5 or 6 or 7? A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about them teaching kids about anal sex and masturbation, watching cartoons, talking about touching yourself. Here we're talking about kids talking about gay rights and transgender rights and these social ills that they just simply do not have the capacity to comprehend. And that's not just a one-off example. All right? Here's a teacher, and she's explaining to her students how this is a secret. Don't tell anybody else. I mean, in the beginning, it seems innocent enough. They're quoting from a book, but at the end, where they end, check it out, what she says. It's scary because they're teaching your kids this stuff, and then at the end of the lesson, the teacher is telling your kid not to tell you, the parent, what she's teaching you. Play tape.
Some of the topics that we're going to talk about, we are going to be talking about some inequalities, social inequalities. And the one thing that you do need to know is it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough talking about some of this stuff. But you need to be able to recognize within yourself and within others the difficulties of speaking about certain things.
I'm about to teach a unit on social justice. The lesson that I taught is the first class of a unit. And this is where we establish ground rules.
So let's jump in. I'm sharing my screen right here. Discussion rules. I don't know how many of you know this book, Jason Reynolds, Long Way Down. Y'all know this one? All right. This is a phenomenal book. In this, he starts out the entire book by saying 3 rules, the 3 rules of the neighborhood. You have 3 rules. 1, no crying, no matter what. 2, no snitching. And 3, revenge. So when we talk about the 3 ground rules, these are the 3 ground rules of the neighborhood. Are these the 3 ground rules that you deal with in real life?
For the most part, yes.
All right. No snitching. What's said in this class?
Don't lead his class.
Exactly. Stays in this class.
Guys, that is a public school teacher saying that the 3 rules, not only of this book, but of this lesson, are, what was the first one? I know the second one is no snitching, what happens in this class, what stays in this class. Number 1 is no crying or showing how this is making you feel if it upsets you. And number 3, sorry to go in order, is revenge. Can you talk about, now I understand all Americans aren't Christian, but this country was built on Christian values, and you can't get any further from the Christian values than to speak about no crying, don't tell your parents what I'm teaching you, and if you don't like something or if you're oppressed, or not oppressed, but if you're violated in some way, you have to get revenge. And then you wonder, why are people looting and burning things down? It's because the teachers are teaching the kids this stuff. You know, just like I said, you can't get mad at illegal immigrants when Joe Biden's inviting them over. They're just people with a dream. It's the administration we have to blame. You can't blame a 16-year-old who's looting a Nike store when that's their teacher. This is your teacher. These are teachers in public school. Again, do you notice that's the second teacher I showed you? And that's the second time we heard the word social justice. Where are they all learning this? At the university? Like, we are seriously dumbing down our society so bad and losing our true north. And I'm telling you, we're going to lose our country if we keep teaching our kids this. And no matter how hard you try to be a good parent, if they're in elementary school learning about activism and transgenderism and anal sex, and they go to middle school and high school and their teachers are telling you, don't be a snitch and don't tell your parents what I'm teaching you in this class. And if somebody wrongs you, you got to get revenge and no crying. Can you get any further from what we want to be as a society? It's freaking disgusting. And you know what's going to happen to these teachers? Nothing. Because even in these conservative states that are passing laws to try to stop this from happening, you got the teachers union, the most powerful union in our country, the biggest political donor in our country. Why is the teachers union the biggest political donor in our country? Aren't they the ones complaining that they don't have enough money? Why are they giving all their own money to the politicians? I just freaking don't get it. And then a year ago, now they're telling us that Republicans tried to defund the police. But a year ago, our current vice president was setting up a bail fund. So if you threw a Molotov cocktail into a cop car and killed a cop or tried to, Kamala Harris is raising money to get you out of jail that night. And the teachers union is getting a fund together so that way if you teach this to a student and you break a state law that's trying to stop this, they have all the lawyers and money in the world at their disposal to fight for you, the teacher who's brainwashing the American population. Play tape.
Mark my words, our union will defend any member who gets in trouble for teaching honest history. We have a legal defense fund ready to go, and we are preparing for litigation as we speak.
There you go. She said it. All right. And again, they're framing it like you heard what the teachers are saying. All right. I got endless examples. I'm not talking about you can't teach the kids about. I encourage every middle schooler to watch the movie Roots to find out how horrible slavery was. Read the Andrew Jackson biography. From the Indians killing his entire family right in front of him when he was 7 or 8 years old, to him killing Indians. The world is brutal. I'm not trying to hide kids from that. We had Jim Crow and the KKK, Democrats, started that. We had people boycotting inaugurations for the implementation of the abolition of slavery or the Civil Rights Act. Democrats again. Every time. And yes, we should be learning about that. And while it was the Democrats, as I pretend to cough, I'm not telling you that you have to teach kids that it was the Democrats who did all these horrible things, because I don't want to get my kids involved in politics when they're 12, 13, 6, 7, whatever. When they're juniors and seniors, we could start introducing this crap to them. When they've already learned knowledge, that which does not change. Not some new pseudo theory about critical race or critical class or critical anything. But this hack of this freaking AFT union leader or NEA union leader, Weingarten or whatever her name is, that's not a standalone thing. Here she is with the Democratic Party propaganda arm, CNN and Chris Cuomo. Please, play tape.
That through the struggle of America, we create more opportunity, more freedom. What I don't get is that that's a great story for Fox TV. That's a great story for all Americans. And what's happening now is that in this push to try to erase what has happened in our history, it is chilling teachers from teaching the fact that we did have slavery. It was uncomfortable. We need to get through it. We need kids to be able to critically think about it and to engage and understand it and get better as a result of it. It is the American experiment that we are trying to teach as school teachers, both the good and the ugly, but the change that we've seen, including having our first African-American president and our first African-American vice president.
She's flipping full of it. All right? If she was telling the truth, I don't have a problem. Again, the kids should learn about the horrors of slavery. Whether it was building the pyramids in Egypt or the pyramids and the human sacrifice by the Aztecs in Mexico, which they're trying to teach the kids to worship those Aztec gods. The whole thing, it just doesn't add up. Including the seeds of slavery here, the slave trade, and the fight to end slavery. We're not going to just teach about the oppression, all right? Not all black people were slaves. In 1776, 10 to 20% of the American population was African American non-slave citizens. Nobody ever mentions that. George Washington's best friend and confidant was his slave. I know that's a very textured and layered thing to comprehend. But the truth of it, but that's what it was. All right? Not every slave was whipped and gagged and killed or murdered or maimed, and many, many were. I mean, it's a very contextual, layered situation. And the more we learn about it, the better. What we have a problem with is the single-sided progressive scope of black people being oppressed. All right? The United States is only 245 years old. All right? And I know I'm going out of order, but can I see that picture? The next one that I'm supposed to show? Here's an example of why we know that this whole thing about America being white supremacist and built in order to perpetuate white supremacy and slavery is wrong. Look at the graph. We were money. There was no abolition of slavery for thousands of years. America was born in 1776. Immediately, New Hampshire outlawed slavery. The first newly acquired lands by the United States of America, George Washington insisted that there was no slavery at any of the newly acquired lands. I'm speaking about the Northwest Territory acquired in the 1780s. All right? That's just two examples. And you notice how, since America was born, that began the abolition of slavery across the world. Our work is still not done. If any of these liberal, progressive teachers want to make a change, go to Libya. Not Syria, Joe Biden. Libya and Syria are two different places. But yeah, go to Libya and fight against slavery. Go to China. All right? Right by where you see a Nike factory, you'll also see a concentration camp. I don't care if you're talking about slavery in America, slavery in Egypt, in the Roman Empire, or you're talking about slavery in China right now. It's happening down the block from a Nike plant. And with all honesty, in my opinion, Nike is today profiting from slavery, whether directly or indirectly. So you want to do something about slavery? Stop talking about America. We sacrificed over 500,000 Americans, 300,000 Union troops, over 500,000 total, died in order to abolish slavery. If you want to talk about slavery in America, I'm fine with it. You want to show roots? You want to talk about how our forefathers owned slaves? You want to talk about some of the atrocities? I'm all for it. But the pinnacle, the climax of the slavery story better be Abraham Lincoln, the Civil War, and the 300,000 white men who went to war and gave their life to abolish slavery. But instead, they're going to lie to you like CNN always does. Please, play tape.
This is the thing that bothers, or should bother, about critical race theory. It's a boogeyman. It's not even taught in most K through 12 schools. But suddenly it's like the biggest thing that's going on in the country when it comes to our kids in schooling. Now, what does that tell you?
The boogeyman? This is what they're doing. They're turning you out. They're trying to say, oh, you're a crazy person. If you even go to a school board meeting or question what they're teaching your kids, it's like you're scared of the boogeyman. It's fake. I'll tell you what's fake. The news on CNN. Play tape.
Tell you that they're BS here. The critical race theory, this boogeyman, is just the new front on the culture war. That's all. The brown menace is gone. They're not coming over the wall to come and take your women. Now they're coming to take your kids. They claim CRT doesn't enlighten. It spreads racism. It spreads socialism. It's just telling white kids that everything you do is somehow given to you and you're worthless and that you have to be to blame for all the bad things.
Right. That is my point. If you're going to tell kids and separate them by race, which has been happening, we have reports of it. If you're going to tell the white kids they're oppressors and the black kids that they're oppressed, yes, that is the problem, and there are reports of it happening. All right? And it is breeding division. It is breeding hate. Our society is devolving. Ever since we got over the hump, we elected a black president. With all due respect, I think one of the biggest reasons we got a black president is because the country wanted to prove we weren't racist. I mean, people don't get involved in the nuts and bolts of politics. Obama was super popular. And to be honest, he said the right things. He was a centrist when he was running in 2007, 2008. And ever since he became president and we were able to prove we are the least racist civilization ever in the history of the world, ever since then we're devolving into this racist, race-baiting society. Please, I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Cuomo.
It's none of those things. Don't fall for what you're being told. Do the homework, okay? It isn't about an intellectual theory. That's not their fight. Their fight is about a power theory, okay? Now, what critical race theory is really about is just choosing which stories matter in the teaching of the history of America. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo gave up the goods on what this is really about for the Trumpers. He tweeted, "If we teach that the founding of the United States of America was somehow flawed, it was corrupt, it was racist, that's really dangerous. It strikes at the very foundations of our country." This guy is supposed to be a genius. He was at the top of his class at West Point. You can teach that America, her birth, her independence, her fight, her foundation was part of the most notable and exceptional experiment in democracy on the face of this planet. Comma, and.
First of all, he said comma and. That's not really proper. And you're going to make fun of Mike Pompeo for finishing at the top of his class at West Point. Hey, Chris Cuomo, where would you be today if Daddy wasn't the governor of New York? Your daddy was Mario Cuomo. Your brother is the current governor of New York. Shocking that he's able to get a job at CNN. I'm sure that's based on his merit. I'm sure Chris Cuomo was at the top of his class. He wasn't eating steroids and working out, I'm sure. And he spits out of both sides of his mouth. Mike Pompeo says we can't be teaching our kids that our country was built upon racism because that's a recipe for disaster. And then Chris Cuomo says, well, I disagree. We could teach our kids that the country was built on, the greatest foundation, comma, and. That's Mike Pompeo's point. The United States was built on the best foundation of purity and Christian values. And there's a but. That was Mike Pompeo's same point. That we can't say it was built on racism, but some people had good intentions. We had to say it was built on good intentions, but that was Mike Pompeo's point. But the thing is, that's not even the point. He's not trying to make a logical argument. He's trying to pull your emotions and make you think he's right. So he says a BS argument, then tells the truth and pretends it supports his BS argument, which it doesn't. It's contradicting it. Listen.
And there have been problems all along. And racism is a primary one. Both of those things can be said. Both are true. And he knows it. This is fake outrage, but it's having real impact on school districts across the country. And it may have a chilling effect on what our kids get to learn about who we are and how we got here and why things are not perfect here and why we are trying to promote a more perfect union. Parents against parents, student against student, teachers in danger of getting punished for what they teach in their classrooms. States all across the country are taking up bills to ban critical race theory.
I mean, he's right. He's saying it. But he's not addressing. They are the cause of teacher against teacher, parent against parent, school board meetings blowing up. That is the reason why it's happening. Is that the end of the clip? Like I said, he's arguing and then using my argument, which doesn't prove his argument, but using it because it makes sense, acting as if it's proven his original hypothesis true, which again proves he didn't finish in the top of his class. And now for the most disturbing, I mean, I know a lot of this was disturbing, but it's about to get a lot worse. You want to talk about what they're teaching your kids? You know, when they said, just let illegal immigrants get a driver's license in order to make our highways safer. It's not like we're going to use it for voter rolls. And then what happened? 10 years later, they're using it to get the voter rolls. They said, just let gay people get married. And I agree, that's fine. And everybody was screaming, oh, but you don't know what that's going to lead to. It's going to be craziness, da-da-da-da-da. And unfortunately, the movement is proving it right. And now, this is the best example. Just like I showed you the best examples of teachers subverting your wishes and teaching whatever the hell they want, even if it's brainwashing and permanently damaging your kids. This is what the gay community is talking about. The same thing. Watch the words and play tape.
Celebrate Pride on the progress we've made over these past years. There's still work to be done. So to those of you out there who are still working against equal rights, we have a message for you. You think we're sinful? You fight against our rights. You say we all lead lives you can't respect. But you're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Funny, just this once, you're correct. We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You can keep them from disco.
They're coming for your kids. Don't give me some BS that this is tongue-in-cheek. All right? I'm going to play the whole song or almost the whole song. I won't. They're coming for your kids, and you're absolutely right. Play tape. Let's keep going.
Warn about San Francisco. Make him wear pleated pants, we don't care. We'll convert your children. We'll make them tolerant and fair.
At first I didn't get why you'd be so scared of us turning your children into accepting, caring people, but I see now why you'd have a problem with that.
Just like you worried, they'll change their group of friends. You won't approve of where they go at night to protests. Oh, and you'll be disgusted so when they start finding things online that you've kept far from their sight. Like information. Guess what? You'll still be alright.
They just said everything you've been trying to protect your children from, they're going to expose it to them, whether you like it or not. I mean, I'm speechless. I don't even know how to express my disgust of these people. I mean, they're telling you straight. I mean, these are the same people. And do you notice? I don't care if I'm talking about teachers or gay rights activists or whatever. Everything is about protesting. How about going to work, going to school, studying, practicing, whatever it is, music or sports or whatever? What is it all about? Protesting and social justice and freedom of letting 6-year-olds find gay porn online. I mean, that's what they're really referring to. Let's hear what else they got to say.
We'll convert your children, yes we will.
Reaching one and all, there's really no escaping it.
'Cause even grandma likes RuPaul.
And the world's getting kinder.
Gen Z's gayer than Grindr. Learn to love, learn to vogue, face your fate. We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate.
All right. now you realize this isn't a one-off. This isn't an anecdotal example. This isn't one dude making a video in his basement like the Johnny Brew Show. This is hundreds of gay men who are getting together to send this message. And look at that picture. There's a lot more to come on. Someone, the day this video came out, about a week ago, the next day, someone did a little bit of investigation. Looked up who was in this San Francisco choir or something like that. What is it? The San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. A whole lot of these men are sexual deviants according to the criminal justice system. They are on the convicted sex registry. And they're making a video telling you that they're coming for your children. I mean, I can't believe that we don't have a 1,000,000-man march going down to wherever they practice to torch the place. Not that I'm condoning them doing that. I'm just saying I can't believe it hasn't been done. You want to talk about a reason to protest? We should get together and picket outside. We need to protect our children. And these gay men are telling us they're coming for our children. And what, are we supposed to just sit back and be like, oh, isn't that cute? Oh, I am inclusive because I'm going to let you come for my... I don't understand. What are we supposed to do? And then if we speak out against it, we're anti-gay or homophobic. Something's got to be done.
We're coming for them. We're coming for your children. We're coming for them. We're coming for them. We're coming for your children. We're coming for them. Your children will care about fairness and justice for others.
All right? My beautiful producer, my wife, she could care less about all this political nonsense. That's why she's such a good producer, because she doesn't get all into what I'm talking about. She's just there to hit, play, stop, switch camera. And even she's sitting here, she's saying she's getting skeeved out. She's like literally disgusted. I watched this video a bunch. I looked each one of these dudes in the eye, man. I mean, these people exist in our society, and they're telling you they're coming for your children. And they're not joking, no matter how much they try to pretend they are. I don't want to make everybody... Well, you want to fast forward to like 3:30? We'll just play the last 30 seconds? Go ahead, play a tape.
It's freeing like you never knew. Go and see San Francisco.
If you want to see a bunch of drug addicts...
You'll forget you were ever upset. We'll convert your children and make an ally of you yet. We'll make an ally of you yet. We'll make an ally of you yet.
He says, go to San Francisco. We'll make an ally of you yet. Yeah, parents, if you want to see what they want to develop your sweet little bundle of joy into, go to San Francisco. See these people perform and come after other people's children, and the hypodermic needles and the feces on every single street corner, and the homeless problem that's out of control, enabled by these politicians. Whether you're talking about Menlo Park and San Jose and the people from the big tech, or you're talking about San Francisco and Feinstein and Pelosi and Swalwell, if he's not busy sleeping with a Chinese spy, I guess he's busy attending the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus as they prepare to come for your children. Well, I'm sorry to leave you with such a disgusting thought, But you need to know what's going on. And you need to protect yourself. And I'm sorry, you need to protect your children. I don't know how we're going to do this. They're coming for the public schools. They're coming for the internet. They're coming for every single function. They want to turn our society into a perpetual protest and discuss social justice and equity. It's a cancer. It's destroying the fabric of our nation. And I'm telling you, it's weakening us, and it's infiltrating our military, our schools, our workplaces, our corporate. People are taking losses and profits to join the woke train. Something weird is going on. It's not adding up. It doesn't make sense for CNN to lose 80% of their viewers and continue down the same path. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for Coca-Cola to tell their employees that if they're white, they're not good people. The number one rule to running a corporation is to keep your employees happy so they keep your customers happy. There's something not right, and we're finding out more and more as they release videos like this, and as we see the teachers, the way they're teaching and what they're saying, and the teachers union getting lawyers ready to decriminalize or get you out for breaking the law, or Kamala Harris getting up bail funds to get you out if you break the law, try to kill a cop, or try to teach kids, white kids, that they're oppressors, or black kids that they're oppressed, or dividing people by race. If you break these laws, well, somebody has a bail fund for you. While, 70-something-year-old grandfathers rot in jail in solitary confinement for trespassing. Again, I'm not condoning anything that happened, but I do believe it's cruel and unusual punishment for someone who did not cause any violence, any destruction, did not steal something, trespassed at the Capitol, and has been in solitary confinement for 6 months. That's cruel and unusual punishment. These gay people coming for your kids is cruel and unusual. Teaching first graders about transgenderism, protesting, anal sex, and masturbation. This is disgusting, and it is not what our country is all about. I don't have the solution yet, because public school is absolutely important. I'll tell you what the answer is not. State-sanctioned healthcare pre-K, because they want to start teaching this to your kids when they're 2 or 3 or 4 years old. They're insidious. They're demonic. When you start to think of them as evil instead of willfully ignorant, it starts to make a little bit more sense. I'm scared for our society, which is why I'm here. My name is John Brookhagen. This is the Johnny Brew Show. I promise to lighten the mood on the next episode.